So, what we're going to get into today is this really intense psychological Gothic tale. It's all about a descent, a journey deep into the self. We follow this traveler, right? And he makes this chilling discovery that the place he calls home, his own mind, is actually built on top of something forgotten and honestly pretty terrifying.
Wow. Just let that sink in for a second. This one sentence just throws you right into the deep end, doesn't it? It sets this incredibly unsettling tone. And it gets right to the core of what we're exploring here, this paradox, this idea that the you that you think is in control, well, you're not the owner of the house. You're just a guest. And you're staying in a much, much older and stranger place. It completely flips the script on who we think is running the show. So let's start at the beginning. Our story kicks off with this traveler, and you gotta understand this guy. He sees his own mind as this perfectly ordered fortress. You know, a well-lit home, everything meticulously organized for his ego. He's convinced that every single room follows the rules of logic and reason. But as we all know, it only takes one tiny crack in that perfect facade for everything to come crashing down. And this is that moment of rupture. That crack. It's not a literal crack in the wall, of course. It's a psychic one. It's the arrival of what the Germans called the unheimlich, the uncanny. You know that feeling, right? That really chilling sensation when something totally familiar suddenly feels completely alien and strange. And here's the kicker. An invitation is extended. But the traveler isn't sending it. The invitation is coming to him from the deepest parts of his own mind.
So, who is this stranger at the door? Who's at the threshold? Well, the text calls him the honest guest. And this is so important. He's not some villain, he's not an intruder, he's actually the guest of honor. This guy, he represents everything the traveler has ever pushed down, ever repressed. All those primal, chaotic truths he tried to lock away in the basement, well, they're back. And apparently, he's here for a dance.
Now here's where it gets really unsettling. The most terrifying thing about this guest isn't some horrible monster shape. It's his face. Or, to be more precise, it's his mask. And the way this mask works is, well, it's profoundly disturbing for our traveler.
Because this guest, he's the uncanny double. And this leads to an absolutely horrifying realization. Your personality, everything you think of as you, it's just a costume. And the worst part? That costume is being worn by some nameless, ancient force that you have absolutely no control over. The guest's mask is what unlocks this terrifying truth.
So let's break this down. The real power of this mask is how it works. Think about a normal mask, right? A deceptive one. It hides a face, creates an illusion. It's there to protect the ego. But the honest guest's mask? It does the complete opposite. It doesn't hide a thing, it reveals. It's a perfect, terrifying mirror that reflects the traveler's own inner monster. And in doing so, it just shatters the whole illusion of who he thought he was.
And that's the psychological shockwave. Just try to imagine that for a second. That moment of recognition. You look in the mirror, and you realize the person staring back at you isn't you. It's a stranger who has been living your life this whole time. We're talking about the complete and total disintegration of the self.
So what happens now? His identity is in pieces. He's left with nothing. He has literally no choice but to follow the guest. And where are they going? Not out into the world, no. The journey goes downwards, deep down into the physical, visceral architecture of his own mind. And their destination, it's not some metaphor, not just a maze of thoughts. It's a literal labyrinth of the body, a visceral temple that completely rejects the clean, comfortable logic of the conscious mind. Instead, it celebrates everything primal, everything subterranean.
And so the descent begins. It takes him first through what's described as a bronchial forest. Imagine that. Hanging vines that are actually conduits, channeling all this dark psychic energy up from the deepest parts of himself. You can almost feel the dampness in the air, can't you? And then they go even deeper, down into these claustrophobic, winding intestinal tunnels. This whole landscape, it's designed to do one thing: remind the traveler that he isn't some floating, disembodied intellect. He's a biological creature governed by these deep, primal animal rhythms. And down in this labyrinth, something starts to shift in his perception. He starts to see his own body not just as a biological machine, but as this kind of primordial architecture. It's like the earth itself was just a rough draft for flesh. The vaulted ceilings of a cave suddenly look like a stone ribcage. Every nerve, every tendon is revealed to be a map of a soul's deepest, darkest truths.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, how can you even see down here? What's lighting up this abyss? Well, it's definitely not a warm, life-giving sun. The light source down here is something much colder and way more analytical.
Hanging above this whole scene is what's called the hollow sun, or the dead father. And yeah, this is not a warm and fuzzy presence. It represents the absolute, totally indifferent authority of the uncanny law, the fundamental, unchangeable rules of the psyche. Its cold light just observes. It watches the traveler's ego get taken apart with this detached, almost surgical clarity.
This light, it acts like a psychic scalpel, and it deconstructs the self in 4 very precise steps. Okay, step 1. Its cold glare completely silences that nagging inner critic, the superego. Step 2. It peels back the ego, which is basically our protective skin. Step 3. It exposes the soul for what it is, mechanical, repetitive. And finally, step 4, it just floods the whole chamber with the raw, untamed energy of the id.
So after being completely taken apart by the guest and this hollow sun, our traveler gets to the final and most crucial stage of his journey. And this is key. It's not actually about destruction. It's about a really radical kind of integration.
This is it. This is the climax of the whole thing. Deep down in his very core, in his bone marrow, the traveler finally feels it. It's this vibration, the vibration of the tarantula, of instinct. What a powerful image, right? For that raw, primal, almost predatory energy of the id. It's not something distant anymore. It's not repressed. It is alive and awake, right at the center of who he is.
And this final act has a name. It's called the inverted Eucharist. Now, in a normal Eucharist, you have a ritual to cleanse sin. Here, the traveler does the exact opposite. He performs a ritual to consume his internal rot. He willingly welcomes that monster he saw in the mask's reflection, not as a guest anymore, but as a permanent, fully integrated part of himself.
So, what's the aftermath? What happens when he comes back up? Well, the traveler emerges completely transformed. That well-lit fortress, his home of logic, it's now haunted. Forever. The unhomely, the uncanny, it isn't locked in the basement anymore. It has the run of the whole house. He literally carries the dampness of the underground in his bones.
And to the outside world, he looks exactly the same. No one would know anything happened. But on the inside, his entire operating system has been rewritten. The pulse of his life, what drives him, is no longer his rational ego. It's now the primal, predatory intelligence of the guest that he's made a part of himself.
So, this whole Gothic story, it's a really powerful allegory, right? It's suggesting that the only real mistake we can make, the only true sin, is believing that we can somehow be separate from our own shadow, our own darkness. And that leaves us with one last, pretty provocative question to think about. What guest is waiting at your threshold?